When local growers put great food on Tennessee tables, that's Living Green. Join us now for some of our favorite stories chosen from our first year as Live Green Tennessee. We'll drop in on the farm in Summertown, explore the state prison gardens, and visit Tennessee's sole certified organic meat producer. Plus, we'll visit East Nashville Farmers Market, crank up Gator's Green Galley with Chef Jason from Greenberry's Deli in Gallatin. For good news that's all green, it's Live Green Tennessee coming up next.
This program is brought to you in part by...
Behind every Pick Tennessee Products logo is a Tennessee farmer who brings you fresh, local food grown with the kind of pride that gets handed down through generations. From now through fall, you can find Tennessee fruits and vegetables on farms and at farmers markets near you. Find your Tennessee farmers at picktnproducts.org.
Do you know where I can find
drill bits? L7.
Thank you.
Lawn Guard pickup line 1. Lawn Guard line 1.
Hey, aren't you Charlie?
Charlie's here?
Charlie?
Charlie?
People know that farmers have some of the best advice around, like you don't have to be a farmer to save money with Farm Bureau Insurance. Farm Bureau Insurance. Tennessee turns to us.
Charlie pickup on line 1.
This happens a lot.
From the great wide north to the hills of Tennessee, built with pride and integrity, honest Abe log homes from sea to shining sea, building the American dream. Honest Abe log homes.
It's what you've always wanted.
HonestAbe.com.
And by the generous support of the Nature Conservancy of Middle Tennessee and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Connecting the grower to the buyer, the country to the city, and smart shopping with a healthy lifestyle. It's Live Green Tennessee.
About 16 years ago, Ralph and I were working in Oak Ridge. We were both environmental professionals. I was an environmental regulatory specialist, and Ralph was a geotechnical lab manager. We got married and started to feel like we'd like to do more to be more sustainable. We felt like there was so much consumerism around us and that we were such consumers. We wanted to do more to produce things for ourselves. And we found this place, West Wind Farms. When we bought the place, we did everything you're not supposed to do. Took out an advance on all of our credit cards. We took an advance on our 401k, loan on our 401k, just to put down the down payment. And we had to continue working full-time in order to continue to pay for it. I mean, we had nothing. And so I grew up in Knoxville, and grew up in apartments my entire childhood, and never had any experience with farming. Ralph grew up in Nashville, downtown Nashville area, and he never had any experience with farming, and so this was all a whole new experience for us. But we knew we could do it. We knew we could start to produce things for ourselves and become more self-sustaining and less consumer-driven. We had originally just intended to farm it for ourselves and not really farm it, but just garden and produce our own food. And the more we produced for ourselves, the more people saw what we were doing, and they wanted to have us produce a little bit for them too. It was totally in line with what our philosophy was on life, that, you know, we needed to be, we needed to protect the environment, to do more to try to improve our little place in this world, and that maybe we could just make a living at this. When we started farming here, I mean, being environmentalists, we were thinking about what this farm needed. We had livestock on the farm because we felt like that's what the soil needed. I mean, we knew we didn't want to plow it, and it needed continuous grazing. Then we had all of these animals on the farm, and we were vegetarian. we had been vegetarian for decades. And so we had to you know, we had to start learning how to deal with these animals. I remember the first chicken that we processed. We had a book open that was telling us how to do it, and it had described all the organs and everything and where they were. And it probably took us, you know, 5 hours probably to process that first chicken. But it's like, okay, what's that? Okay, take that out. Is that a gizzard? What is that? But that was the best chicken we'd ever eaten. It was so good, that first chicken we ate. And it was worth all 5 hours of it. It was so good. Here at West Wind Farms, we operate a large grass-fed beef operation that is large relative to most small farms. We run Angus, Simmental, and Red Devon mixed breed cattle here on this farm. They help with rotational grazing. We insert them when we need to have more of the grazing in specific paddocks. We use the cattle to follow behind the sheep sometimes on the heavier pastures. And so only a few of the animals are kept here of the cattle, and then we keep the rest of the cattle on another 700 acres that we lease. All of our acreage is organic certified pasture, and that's all that the animals eat. We have a lot of infrastructure in place to do the deliveries to our customers. Behind me are some of the coolers that we use. We have about 100 coolers, just like this, that we use to pack orders in and deliver them to neighborhoods. All of our sales aren't at farmers markets, but we do go to 8 different farmers markets every week, sometimes some of them twice a week. We go to Memphis and Knoxville to do deliveries. We also go to Nashville, Franklin, Chattanooga, Atlanta, and all parts all around. So roughly we'll spend about 2 day trips or probably 3 day trips a week just traveling to markets where we're gone all day, and travel about probably 2,500 miles each week. But in addition to those markets, we do the neighborhood deliveries with these coolers. We have 3 walk-in coolers, at least 10 by 12 each, approximately 15 chest freezers that are in use at any time. And then we have the 3 delivery vehicles that we use. So you can see that it's quite an operation where it's a distribution center that we have to work from, getting our product out to our customers. We were one of the first direct selling meat farms, probably the first in Tennessee. You know, we were the first ones to show up at the farmers market. We decided to do our own meat processing for several reasons: to keep more control over our final product and be able to have a greater diversity of products than what our butcher might be able to do himself or be willing to do. We produce specifically for chefs. One thing in particular is our little small chickens. Chefs seem to like the smaller chickens that we produce, not the regular whole size. And so we do those just for chefs. We've been doing this so long that we developed some different products originally, and then we just add on as customers ask for more things. And so now, after 15 years, we have a really good selection of products. All in all, I guess we have about 175 or so meat cuts available to customers. They're not all in stock at all times, but we try our best to keep them in stock. Maybe 150, 175, something like that. I haven't counted them exactly. We've got 250 total products available to customers. I was trying to separate out what wasn't actually meat and poultry. So we hustle.
The best beef jerky you'll ever taste in your life comes from here, from West Wind Farms. And grass-fed cheeses, the best.
Chicken bologna. While bologna is not necessarily considered a health food, West Wind makes a chicken bologna that's organic and it tastes delicious, and all their spices are wonderful, and my son's been looking forward to it all winter long.
But you know, there's a declining interest actually in local certified organic. People just want local. People are interested in organic agriculture to the extent that they understand organic. They think of cattle grazing out on green pastures and chickens being able to run around free. They think of the whole system working together, you know, with the birds and you know, the insects and everything working together. You know, the local food movement started because they wanted to be able to see where their food was coming from and verify that it was their idea of what organic was. So we do have organic certification, and we are their idea of organic. We're both. For Ralph and I, our future is probably going to be pretty similar to what it is now. We hope that we are an example of how people can start with absolutely nothing and develop a productive, profitable farming operation. People say that that can't be done, that you have to inherit land or you know, you have to have experience and that sort of thing, but we're living proof that you don't have to have experience. You can start with nothing. I mean, we had nothing but a dream and a prayer, you know, when we got started, and an intense commitment to organic production and sustainable production. And you know, if you have a desire to you know, maintain the land and to improve the land, and if you're willing to work hard, that it can be done. I mean, we did it. You know, we love what we're doing now and wouldn't trade it for anything.
We need a new one. How about a new one? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Miranda Barris. I'm from Twin Forks Farm. We're located in Prim Springs.
My name's Eric Patrick. I'm the owner and operator of Foggy Hollow Farm, which is located in Jolton, Tennessee.
My name is Geraldine. I'm the owner of Geraldine's Greatest Chest Pies. This is a recipe of my grandmother. She gave it to me about 20 years ago.
I'm Skip with Alfresco Pasta. We make it fresh daily. We have a commercial kitchen right here in Nashville.
I'm Teresa Happy Barker, and I make organic vegan dog snacks because we think that you are what you eat, whether you walk on 2 legs or 4.
I'm Jennifer from the Green Wagon, and we're here at the East Nashville Farmers Market. This is our 2nd year being involved with the markets. We bring all of the locally made products with us to the markets. About 70% of what we carry is made here in Tennessee.
All natural leaven sourdough breads baked in a wood-fired oven. We have the raisin bread right here, the Heritage sunflower wheat, Bohemian 3-seed, and the Expedition right there. They eat the raisin every morning for breakfast with some wildflower honey. I'm partial to sweet things.
It's delicious. The bread's delicious.
We've got some lettuce mix, pea shoots, Italian kale, some spring onions, and then we've got some head lettuce here. We are certified organic. We've been farmers for about 2 years now. And we also had some potatoes and cucumbers and eggs earlier, but we've sold out of a lot of the stuff that we brought. This market has been a great market for us.
They're all natural, no artificial ingredients of any kind. We've got several raviolis. We've got a Tennessee sweet corn and a beet pasta, an Italian cheese, red roasted pepper, got portobello mushroom, also chicken black bean, sweet corn and shrimp here. I've got a lemon ricotta pillow, which is wonderful. I have gorgonzola, walnut, and spinach agnolotti. And these little guys here are butternut squash gnocchi. Okay, is that it?
By default, our snacks are vegan because they're hypoallergenic, and I avoid all of the most common allergens, which include dairy and meat.
It took me at least 14 years to master her recipe, but I do tell people my pies are always fresh, and I do make the best chest pie and diabetic chest pie in the state of Tennessee.
I love this farmer's market because of the community.
The people is my favorite part of coming to the farmer's market.
And it's just a great place to be.
Getting to meet the farmers, the people who are growing all of your food.
My favorite thing about coming to the farmer's market, a lot.
But when people tell me that it's good, you know, it's a nice thing to hear. To know that your work isn't, you know, for nothing.
Kudos. I love that.
Hi, I'm Eli the Gadget Guy, and welcome to the Green Gadget Lab. Today I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to grow a healthy treat. It is a seed sprouter. You can buy a sprouting kit, or you can use an old mason jar with holes poked in the lid. We used a little of both. First, just soak your seeds overnight in a jar, using the lid with holes in it. Then rinse your sprouts thoroughly morning and evening by letting the water rush out the top through the small holes. As the sprouts grow, change to a lid with larger openings to rinse the holes away. Not only will your homegrown sprouts be yummy, but according to my good buddy Dr. Rob Walker, sprouts are living medicines that have more medicinal properties than found in the seed or the mature plant. I'm Eli the Gadget Guy, and we'll see you next time in the Green Gadget Lab.
Hey guys, welcome to the Green Galley. My name is Gator. Again, we're going to cook green, we're going to live green, build the economy as well as the ecology. To help us, Chef Jason Nunley here from the Greenberry Deli, I understand, in Gallatin.
That's right, yes sir.
All right, so we're going to be cooking for you guys tonight. What is it we're going to be cooking?
Today we're going to, well, first of all, everything is local Tennessee product. We're going to be doing a roulade of chicken breast. We're going to stuff it with Tennessee prosciutto, country ham, organic baby spinach, and Chevrolet goat's cheese.
Roulade, you say?
A roulade, a very fancy name of for roll. We're going to be making a very fancy chicken roll today.
Well, all right, well, how do we get started?
Well, first of all, here we go. We're going to fire on our pan. What we do is generally, it's called ha-ha. Heat the pan, then we're going to add our oil. We're going to heat the oil. We're going to add our product.
Sounds good. Medium there, right?
I don't do anything unless it's full bore. It's all high right now, so we're going to go full high, get the pot good and hot. In the meantime, as this is heating, we're going to bang out some chickens.
All right, I love this.
That's your job.
This is my job. But tell us about, you know, I know that you're sort of a Southern boy, but a boomerang Southern
I am.
boy,
I
right?
was born in Huntsville, Alabama. I moved at about the age of 12. I've been living in Los Angeles most of my life.
Right.
I've been out there for the past, well, 20-something odd years.
Sure.
And I met my wonderful wife out there. We had a beautiful baby and decided that LA was no place to raise a child, hence the move to Tennessee. So, all
right, bang it
start
out.
banging these out. You want to hit them, you want to get them as thin as you can without breaking a hole.
Okay, sounds good. About like that?
You got it.
All right, good.
It's going to get messy.
LA is kind of like the green movement's been going on there for a while,
The
right?
green movement in Los Angeles has been taking place for several years. As far as the concept of using local produce, sustainable produce, creating as little waste as you can, and recycling as most of that waste as you possibly can. But the move for us to Tennessee was to really take the knowledge that we had as far as providing green food. That one's done. You're good.
Okay,
We're going to
good.
move on to the next one.
Hey, show me how you would do it.
Essentially, all we do is we're taking a little chicken breast flat, and I just start working it. You're going to get some splatter. That's normal.
See, this is how it prepares it. See how his looks versus how mine looks.
But essentially what we want to do is get it as thin as we possibly can without breaking it apart.
Okay.
So that's essentially the finished item that we're looking for there. Yours is going to taste just as good, I assure you. So what we're going to do as we're moving on to the food here, this is a very thinly sliced piece of Tennessee country ham.
Really?
I slice this.
I was saying, how do you get it this thin?
What we do is, rather than taking the traditional Tennessee country ham everyone knows, they're doing a cross cut with the bone in there. We're actually slicing vertically that large muscle loin off of the bone.
Right.
Horizontally then shaving it off with a prosciutto slicer. So this prosciutto here, Tennessee country ham, essentially take a couple of these pieces off. You're just going to lay it up on the top there.
All right.
Now that my pan is good and hot,
wow, I can't believe how thin
I've
this
got
is.
just a little extra virgin olive oil here we're going to add to the pan.
Okay.
This, I've got a fresh parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, and fresh garlic marinade. So I will make an amount this size every single time that I cook.
I see. And you do a lot of the growing yourself.
We have, right now, we got 3/4 of an acre planted at my house. We're growing, I've got over 100 heirloom tomatoes. I've got 50 heirloom peppers, corn, beans, squash, as well as a whole variety of herbs. The way that I like to cook is cooking with high quality ingredients. Nowadays, sometimes the only way to get that high quality ingredient is to do it yourself.
Right.
Any local farmer's market around here is going to get you some good product. This here is an organic baby spinach.
Okay.
I just picked up the road from where I live in Gallatin. This is a Green Market Farm product.
Okay.
Peter, there's your job. You just
All
gotta
right.
toss that around for me.
Now what are you putting in here?
This is just a little kosher salt
Okay.
and some black pepper. Once we cook this about another minute, we're going to stick it in here. Spinach holds a lot of water. This saute process actually is going to release that water. We're going to drain it off so we don't have spinach juice running through our chicken.
Now you mentioned that you got a wife and a daughter, did you say?
I've got a wife, Anya, my daughter, Madison Louise. She's 2.5.
How much is she learning about living green
She,
even at 2.5?
Even at 2.5, she spends most of her time with me, either on the tractor or in the dirt planting seeds.
Really?
She truly enjoys the garden, and I think even at 2.5 understands that food comes from the ground, and as such, it's an important concept.
A lot of kids don't get that
A lot
these
of kids
days,
don't
right?
get that nowadays.
It comes
correct.
from the frozen food section or the produce department. All right. How's that
we're
looking?
done. Let's take her off.
Okay.
And
so what you're doing there is draining the
we're
juice
just going
off.
to drain some of the juice off right there. Now, what I like to do is what's called one-pan cooking, and essentially, I don't like cleaning here, Gator. So
Let's see.
what
One
we're
hand
going to
cleans,
do,
one hand
we're
cooks.
going to saute the spinach in this pan. I just give this little pan a quick wipe. We're going
Okay.
to go back in with some extra virgin olive oil.
All right.
Just enough to sort of coat the bottom of the pan. And again, we've got our hot pan. I'm going to add my oil. We're going to heat the oil up.
Okay.
We've now got our chicken breast sort of split out.
All right.
We're just going to lay this prosciutto
Oh, I like
up
that.
on top. We're going to go and get us another piece of this.
You can never have too much
You can never
prosciutto.
have too much ham. This is from Kira's Kids Dairy out of Van Buren County. Creamed goat's cheese,
Okay.
if you will. Chevre is another name for it. Let's
All right.
grab this little fork here.
Okay.
You do your job.
All
Take
right.
you a big wad like this and stick
Okay.
it right in the middle.
Just right in the middle,
Right in
you
the
say.
middle.
I can do that much. Now, you obviously mentioned L.A. You mentioned, started in the South. Now you're back in the South. But you've been all over, right? I mean, you've cooked in, was it Spain, someone told me?
I have. Part of what I wanted to do was to travel to a variety of places that I knew the food, at least a pretty common grounds for the food. It allows you to see the way that other people live around the world. Now, these are not going to be the prettiest until after we get them in the pan.
Now, this is the roll you were
This is
talking
the
about.
roll.
What was the word that you used?
Roulade.
Roulade. This is a roulade,
A roulade.
for the folks at home, okay?
Okay.
And do I do the same
You
thing?
do the same thing,
Okay.
to the best of your ability. It's
Oh,
not
my
gonna-
goodness.
But essentially, these little guys, paper-thin chicken breasts, are only going to take a couple of moments to cook.
Okay.
We're going to skewer them with the edges that we've sort of stuck together. We're going to skewer these little boys just like that, and we're going to stick them right into the hot oil. Still cooking on high. What we're
Okay.
going to do is we're going to cook about 5 to 7 minutes just on this first side, and we're going to give it a flip. We're going to stick it in the oven. We're going to finish up the rest of our dish.
Tell us more about your restaurant, your Greenberry Deli is what it's called in Gallatin?
We own a restaurant in Gallatin. It's called Greenberry's Deli. It is essentially a full-service soup, salad, sandwich restaurant. We're only open for lunch Monday through Saturday, but our specialty is all Tennessee product.
All right.
It is all local product, as well as, like you see, we're growing a lot of the stuff at our house as well. Fresh.
Well, obviously, Green Galley, talking about green living, it's important for farmers. It's great for the local economy. Why is cooking green? Why is it such a passion? Because it seems like you've been pursuing it your whole life.
I have been, I think, cooking green my entire life, Peter. I was raised on a farm in Huntsville. My grandfather owned a farm there. We've always grown organically. We had cows. The manure was sifted out into the garden, and plants grew out of it. And cooking locally.
I started to say, do we need to turn this?
We're getting close. No, we're
Okay.
doing fine.
All right.
A little trick is when you use a little hot pan and you put a cold product in there, the product is going to stick until it's ready to turn. The
Okay.
chicken is going to let us know here in just a minute. It's time to flip it. As far as the notion of cooking green, it was not a new concept for us. In the last few years, the word organic and green has really become pretty hyped and hip. In most cases, it's exactly the way farmers have been doing it here for generations.
Now, I didn't hear the chicken talk here.
Well,
Chef Jason, you said it was going to tell us.
It told me when the chicken stops
if you're-
sticking.
Okay, when it
we
stops
know
sticking.
we're in business right
Okay,
now.
good.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss just a touch more seasoning on there. We're going to stick this
It
hot
looks
pan.
excellent. So we've had the oven already
Oven is
preheated at
on and
450?
ready. I've got the oven at 450, and again, I like to cook on high. The method being, we're going to flash cook it, essentially sealing all those juices.
And so while we've got the chicken in the oven, we are putting a salad together?
We are going to put together a very basic salad.
Okay.
Again, what I've done is I've picked up some greens from a local farm.
All right.
This is a little spring mesclun mix. It's got about 9 varieties of lettuce, as well as baby spinach. Just drizzle a touch of olive oil over the top.
Okay.
So we're just going to toss this and put it on the plate as we're taking it. Now this here are some herb roasted Roma tomatoes.
Okay.
What we do is
I'm guessing we're using this.
We're going to use the big knife right now. What I do, Gator, is I split these little guys vertically. I toss them in my fresh herb marinade.
All right.
I put them in the oven for about 4 to 5 hours at 350 just to sort of caramelize and break down a little bit.
Okay.
What we're going to do right now, you're just going to do a very rough chop on that.
Rough chop, you say.
And the technical term, we're actually going to make a ragu.
A ragu?
A tomato ragu.
Oh, you say rough chop. So the green berry deli, that's kind of an interesting name.
Greenberry is, we found it to be a very interesting play in the word. Greenberry is the name of my great-great-great-grandfather.
Oh, really?
Greenberry Nunley. He is from Tennessee, the Cumberland Plateau area. He is half Cherokee.
What does your wife think? She's from L.A., right?
She's an LA
what does
girl.
she think of Tennessee and the hills?
I tell you, the first time I brought her out here, I think she was completely sold. What was important to us was not to have the city and all of its availability of things, but to get back to the simpler life, go out in the country, plant food, grow food, and live a happy, simple life.
Live green.
And live green, essentially, yeah.
All right, so it's been about 7 minutes in the oven. Are we ready to get it out?
Let's check this chicken and see how far we are.
Again, it's the Greenberry Deli. It's Chef Jason Nunley. He's here with us, and we're making chicken rolls. That's what I'm going to call it. I forget what he calls it. We're chicken rolls.
Roulades of a free-range chicken breast. So essentially, Gator, we've taken our protein out. Anytime you cook a protein, you should let it rest for a few moments because it's going to allow all of those juices to settle down a little bit.
Right.
As you slice it, the juices will actually stay inside of the meat. They won't leak out of your protein.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now what we do is, and again, I like one-pan cooking, so any of that goat cheese and spinach that's leaked out of there, that's just going to make our sauce better.
All right. Sounds good.
So we are going to now kick the heat back on.
Okay.
Scoop up all those tomatoes, chuck them in there for me. I'm going to add just a touch more salt and pepper.
Wow, this smells incredible.
And what we're going to do right now, Gator, we are just going to add a little bit of chicken stock. We are just going to deglaze our pan by scraping all that good caramelized flavor out the bottom. Fond is the technical term for that.
Okay.
We're going to get all that scraped up. I can tell you right now, it's just about done. Now, as this is just finishing off, let's give you a little toss on those greens. Lift a small handful right out there on the top.
All right.
We will remove this little roulade.
Okay.
What I like to do is come down with a really nice little soft diagonal cut.
Oh, I like that.
We will plate this right on top of your greens.
It's all about presentation, isn't it?
And along with that, I'm a big fan of warm foods on cold greens. I like hot salads. Absolutely. And that is more.
That looks incredible. Chef, come handy with it. It's all right. I'll try the goat cheese fork. It's all right. All right, get a little of this. Actually, you know what? I don't believe in a little. Just. Wow.
Good.
Excellent. And the best reason I know to live green, Tennessee, right here. Thanks again to D.T. McCall & Sons for letting us come in and invade their kitchen. Thanks again to you, and we'll come down and see you at the Greenberry Deli.
Look forward to it. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
guys for living green, Tennessee.
Welcome to the medicine garden. The most medicinal of all vegetables, garlic has been utilized for its healing powers for millennia. Archaeologists discovered clay sculptures and paintings of garlic bulbs in Egyptian tombs dating to 3200 BC. Egyptian writing from 1500 BC recommends garlic as a cure for over 22 common ailments, including heart disease and lack of stamina. King Tut went into the afterlife with garlic at his side. Ancient Greeks and Romans enjoyed a variety of garlic uses, from repelling scorpions to treating dog bites, bladder infections, leprosy, and asthma. Hippocrates, regarded as the father of modern medicine, is said to have used garlic to treat cancerous tumors. Battle-hardened Greek troops ate garlic for courage. Louis Pasteur verified garlic as antiseptic in 1858, and countless studies proved garlic to be a strong antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, and antiparasitic herb. When the supply of sulfa drugs ran out during wartime, the British used garlic to treat wounds. Better still, harmful organisms are not likely to develop resistance to garlic. Not so with pharmaceutical antibiotics. Garlic is used extensively in relieving yeast and candida infections. Garlic boosts the immune system too, increasing interferons while improving actions of white blood cells, critical components of the immune system. Garlic is also effective in treating insulin-dependent diabetes by stimulating the pancreas. This is one of the more underestimated benefits of garlic. An excellent mosquito repellent, the components giving garlic its pungent smell and taste are also responsible for its benefits. Many of these are destroyed in cooking, so raw garlic is the best. Garlic is a wonder herb with astonishing powers, so remember, garlic breath is healthy breath. This is Dr. Opp Walker, and see you next time in the Medicine Garden.
The idea was to put together a life that would be more in harmony with the earth, which, came under the concept of right livelihood, that your work would be seamless with your ideals. And so we tried to develop ways of making a living to support ourselves that would, not compromise those ideals, but help us work in tune with the earth, and, something that would be helpful for other people and the rest of mankind. And so one of the ways we've done that is through a number of different nonprofits where we do relief and development work around the world. We work with refugees and homeless sheltered children that come here for a program in the summer, and to pass on some of those, ideals onto a generation that might not receive that type of exposure. They say that, not to put your treasures where moth and dust may corrupt. And so you don't see a lot of fancy buildings and things around here. What we've really done is put our attention into the land. We have 1,700 acres here, and over 1,000 acres are set aside strictly as a nature preserve.
Human beings can actually work together and work in a really positive way to where they're supportive and they can build something that's very positive. And I think where this is giving us glimpses of the future, what can actually happen environmentally, we're right now in a lot of ways destroying our nests. Global warming is a reality, no matter what Rush Limbaugh has to say about it. There's enough scientists who believe it, and we're going to see more extremes in climate changes. We're going to see more trees dying. We're going to see more species leaving. We're going to see the environment which we depend upon, which has a lot to do with growing our food, change in a lot of ways. And so the more we can start developing bonds between each other as human beings and figuring out how we can cooperate and work together, the better we're going to be able to, as a society, country, or even world, handle mass diversity, mass, adversarial conditions. And so I think that's really important too. Solar cells, getting to from the actual mechanics of it, solar cells, solar voltaic cells can be put on people's roofs. There's a few people in Nashville and in Cookeville and Knoxville who do installations, and people should check those out. It used to be something that was esoteric, that was something that people with a lot of money did, and something that really didn't pay anything. Maybe it was just something fancy that you could point to on your house and say, hey, I got solar voltaics, big deal. Maybe it was something you could talk about at your party. But now it's more important than that, and now it's actually going to be able to give you energy independence, real independence from the electric companies that are producing it, and even from the government that regulates it. The more we can do that stuff, the better. The more we can grow our own food, produce our own power that's not regulated by big companies, the more independent we will become as people.
This is the community garden, and we started this about last year. Most of us have gardens around our houses, but we also have our houses kind of in the woods, and as the trees got taller, we just weren't getting enough sun. We had used these fields back in the old days, for large, big-scale farming, but we really didn't need to do that as we went through our social economic change, and people were just more doing standard jobs for a living, not trying to make a living at farming. But we felt like we wanted to get back out here where the full sun was. One of the things that's fun here, this represents 10 different family groups. Some spots are owned by individual families, others have 2 or 3 families working together, sharing a spot. People have many different styles of gardening. You've got your raised beds, These folks have theirs set up in like an interesting pattern. And then we'll take a look over here at the example of square foot gardening, where you're kind of doing a real concentration of many different plants within a small bed. And it's just been really an enjoyable social atmosphere as well. All the people out here working together on their gardens.
Our family moved here about a year ago, year and a half ago. And we, are starting our garden out here in the community garden. I think it's where you really get in touch with the source of, it's just feeding your food, feeding your family and feeding your soul. And it's a place to do good work.
And after writing and sitting in front of a computer, the best thing I can do for myself to just recharge and get my attention, get my focus together is come out and stick my hands in the dirt and start doing things and making food. And it's just a great balance. And it just sort of brings me back in touch with reality, or a different reality. But that's how it works. The more life force there is within the food that you eat, the stronger and healthier you're going to be.
We came here in a caravan of buses in the spring of 1971, and this was a lecture tour that Stephen, my husband, was making that winter, and it was on that caravan that I saw my first birth and decided I wanted to be a midwife.
As a midwife assistant, I'm observing births and learning, and I'm going to go through what's called a CPM certification, and where I have an apprenticeship and helping women and babies have safe birth options, whether they want it to be at home or whatever they want their experience to be, we can be there with them.
And as a matter of fact, the first birth I saw was as perfect as a birth gets, and the woman looked so beautiful. I didn't know that. I mean, that was a big surprise for me, because I thought, you'd look bedraggled and sweaty, but she looked better than usual, not worse than usual.
We didn't know we were going to be midwives. I didn't know I was going to be a midwife, but Ina May called me, and then people kept calling us. And by the end of the year, we had driven all the way around the country, and by the end of the time, by the time we got back here, we delivered about 9 babies. I think it was 9. This wasn't possible where I come from. There was a very, very slim chance that I would have my ideal birth experience in that environment. And so I kept thinking, gosh, I wish I could just go down to the farm and have the baby there. And so I called up to find out if it was possible, and it turned out it was very possible.
It's really gratifying to let women know that they don't have to be scared of their body's ability to give birth, because we're as well made as any other mammal, and we work as well if we can lower these levels of fear. I like doing that.
We're neighbors, we're friends, we're almost family in a way, and that just promotes so much more trust, I think, in what would otherwise be a very daunting experience, I think, for a first-time mom. But I don't really feel fear about it at all, and I think that's priceless. So.
And I've had both my children here, now I have grandchildren here on the farm. And it's really about the long-term relationships that you make with people, going through life-changing experiences, life's ups and downs, the sorrows and joys, that really build those deep relationships that allow you to continue and give you the faith that you need to carry on and feel like, you're making a difference in the world. The Solar School is one of the largest, if not the largest, passive solar building in the state of Tennessee, and it's designed so that the lower elevation winter sun, the light passes through the translucent panels across the front of each sawtooth. That light strikes a cinder block wall filled with sand, that forms a thermal heat sink which carries the heat down into the cement slab floor. And so the entire building takes on the heat of the sun and holds it well overnight and keeps the building really warm without a lot of additional heat.
Well, we call what we do lots of different things, but one of the things is community-based education. And the basic idea there is that we're all different, that's great, and that what we want to do, rather than producing kids who are all sort of conform to standards, we like our children unique, and to develop their own strengths and to learn how to work together as a diverse group of human beings, sort of each contributing their strengths to the mix. The way we do education actually also has a lot to do with how permaculturalists do gardening and human settlement. And that is sort of working with natural rhythms. And so where a permaculturalist sort of observes and interacts with plants and animals, a permaculture educator, in addition to teaching about permaculture, interacts with students, sees where their strengths are and how they fit together, and kind of works with their nature.
The building was built in around 1978, and we were just looking for solar alternatives, And if you'll notice, the brick exterior all came from a 3-story factory that we tore down in Pulaski, Tennessee. So, it's built with a lot of recycled materials as well as, ingenuity.
One of our big projects that we're working on right now is our Natural Learning Center. And our plan for that is for that to be a regional center that public schools can take field trips to, but also where we can do staff development. That was one of my jobs back in the New York City school system, and we'd like to become a hub in Tennessee for helping teachers learn how to do both nature education and education based on our ideas of natural learning in their own schools.
And so the more we can start developing bonds between each other as human beings and figuring out how we can cooperate and work together, the better we're going to be able to, as a society, country, or even world, handle mass diversity, mass adversarial conditions. And so I think that's really important too.
It really gives us all a lot of leverage by working together, sharing this piece of land, and the many different projects that the farm's involved in. It really wouldn't be possible without the cooperation of everybody here. And it's been inspiring to me to just see what can be accomplished when you work together and try to do something for the good of all.
Hi, my name is Amanda and this is Grady, and we're here to show you a really good way to use all of the fresh strawberries that you can find at local farmers markets and pick your own places across the state of Tennessee this time of year. I'm going to go ahead and give Grady a strawberry because he'll get kind of ill if I don't. So we're going to take our strawberries, we'll add some banana just to sweeten it. Sometimes strawberries are a little tart and I like to add banana to all of my smoothies to make sure that it's good and sweet. We're putting in about 6 strawberries, a half a banana, and we're going to take about a half to 3/4 of a cup of yogurt and put that in. Your favorite plain yogurt for a baby. You don't really want to use non-fat because they don't really need to watch their waistline, and it's good to give them those good fats that help them with brain development. So I'm just going to pop this on here and give it a little bit of a whir. Since Grady is teething right now, we like to make popsicles. Put them in the freezer, and within 8 hours we'll have some nice sweet popsicles. Do you want a popsicle? Have a great summer from Live Green, Tennessee. Thanks. Is that good?
Initially, I was
I'm with the University of Tennessee Center for Industrial Services, and initially I was invited to Morgan County Correctional Facility to help them set up a recycling program and a composting program. And then that information worked its way to Nashville, and I was invited here to do the same thing with the concentration on setting up a composting program for the 5 facilities here at River Bend. And this was about 10 years ago.
We're presently at the site of the old Tennessee State Penitentiary where our compost operation is set up. What you've seen, we pick the waste products up from each one of the facilities here in Davidson County. We bring them to this site, which is the site of the old Tennessee State Prison. The barrels that you've seen being dumped out was the waste products from the different facilities. It is placed on the pad that you see behind me. It is then mixed with wood chips, mixed very thoroughly to where all parts of the food matter is covered with the wood chips, which is where the beginning of the process begins of everything breaking down to where it turns into the rich compost, which will eventually go to the garden. It is in this area for roughly 45 minutes to an hour. It takes to bring all the food product in, dump it on the pile that you see behind me, then mixed, and that takes roughly 45 minutes to an hour.
Well, I've been interested in composting for a long time. I worked in Ontario and more than 20 years ago, and they were some of the earliest localities in Canada where leaf composting was going on, so became well grounded and familiar with the process. And then the added complication of composting food, has its own little challenges, and you gradually pick up all of the details for carrying out successful composting of food waste, in part by trial and error, in part by learning from other people's trials and errors.
And all the work that you see being done out here is done by the inmates. The inmates are brought out on site. They do all the cleaning of the cans. Inmate also drives the truck that picks up the food material from the institutions. They're all minimum trustee inmates, so everything you see being done out here is done by the inmates, which in turn helps with the savings that is saved to the taxpayers of the state. This operation that we have going on here on a yearly basis, if we had to dispose of this material and have it sent to landfills, it would cost roughly $151,000 per year. By doing the compost, we're saving the taxpayers $151,000 a year. And when you combine this with the garden project, which roughly last year we spent $4,800 to work the garden, we produced $125,000 worth of produce. So in turn, we netted out $120,000. So when you combine both projects together, the compost and the garden, we saved the taxpayers of the state of Tennessee $270,000 last year. The inmates enjoy getting out here and working. Some of them had no earthly idea what compost was, had no idea what the process was, and it's been a good learning experience for them. It allows them to get out here and work, and yes, it's done a lot, for their morale.
My job out here is to go to the penitentiaries here in Davidson County, pick up the compost each and every day. I bring it up here, as you've seen what process. I bring it up here and we dump them out. We wash the cans. Then my next process is to mix the compost or the food and the wood chips together. Then after I've mixed them thoroughly, I carry them and dump them on a pile that sits for about a year. Then we move that pile and rotate it over.
What you're seeing going on behind me is the first stages of what we call the cooking of the compost. It's once the wood chips and the food material has been mixed together, they are placed in these windrows for roughly 1 year, where they will what we call cooking. After that year is over with, we will take the piles and we will stack them up into larger piles where for another year they will set and cook. And at that time they will be moved to the garden area, where we will be placing it on the garden as basically a replacement for fertilizer. We are roughly 60% organic in our garden area, and we're trying to make that even more than that, where we're using less fertilizers and using this compost, to grow our plants. One of the biggest challenges that we have faced out here was birds. And with the help of Dr. Bugelen from the University of Tennessee, what we simply done is we started putting more wood chips onto the piles. It comes down to, if they can't see it, they can't smell it, they're not going to bother it. And it has worked. As you can see around us, there's very few birds around. So, and with John C. Toon Airport being as close vicinity as it is, really don't need a lot of birds in the area. So, that's what we tried, and it worked. If you know the process is working correctly, you should be able to smell nothing but wood chips. It should have a very earthy smell to it. You should be able to smell the fresh wood chips that are done, have just been brought in. Should not have any type of sour smell. And basically that's what we have out here. You basically cannot smell the compost whatsoever. Once it is mixed like it's supposed to be, this is what you get. And by not having any smell, it definitely is, we're doing it right.
Initially, I wrote down everything for Bobby so he had a reference of what to do, the steps, simplified the steps without going into a lot of scientific detail. That wasn't, that didn't enter into the question. You just have to know what to do, what to look for, what to avoid, and Bob's your uncle. Well, I was hoping I was going to get more phone calls from both Bobby and from Doug, but there hasn't been any need. They've done such a good job. They never ran into any problems. If they did, they solved them themselves. And so I can't take credit for that success. That's theirs. That's on their back. Credit to them.
We're now at the Middle Tennessee Regional Garden, which is where the compost is brought once it has gone through its 2-year cycle up at the old prison. What you see going on behind me, directly behind me, is where we have planted green onions. The inmates have spent the last 3 days putting the onions in roughly 800-foot rows. It takes roughly 2 32-pound bags to fill each one of these rows. Also at the present time, we are planting cabbage, and we're working in the compost that we had moved from the old prison site down here. We're actually working that into the ground right now. A lot of the guys have never been through the process of growing food. I've had comments in the past where people said it amazed them what it took to actually put something in the ground, produce it, and get it out to where it actually would go to Kroger's. And the type of appreciation they had got for what it actually took to get their food.
It's satisfying to know that you get to sit down and eat something that you've helped produce, and goes back to a good benefit after what waste is left then.
It has been a huge success thanks to Bobby Prosser and of course Doug Griffith and the inmates who have been part of the program. And one of the really neat things is that they're using the compost that they're generating at the site that you visited before here to feed the inmates, saving, well, Doug gave you the numbers, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and avoided disposal costs. I mean, it's just a really nice closed loop story. The food that's generated here is part of the waste stream that is composted, that goes back onto the fields to generate more food. It's kind of it's a good cycle of nature exhibited right here at this correctional facility. Very nice to see, and should be a model in part for municipalities and counties in Tennessee who have been very slow to become interested in composting food waste. Granted, they have got more of a headache in the collection side of a food waste composting program, but you can certainly see how it can be done in a very, very low-tech manner, given the area that they've got. And there would be no lack of citizens in municipalities or counties would be only too happy to come and get the compost after it's finished for use in their own garden.
I think it needs to be more implemented statewide to help solve on cost and help produce more fertilizer and build the ground back. I think it will help me a lot tremendously and help implement some things that I want to do when I get out.
This program is brought to you in part by Behind every Pick Tennessee Products logo is a Tennessee farmer who brings you fresh, local food grown with the kind of pride that gets handed down through generations. From now through fall, you can find Tennessee fruits and vegetables on farms and at farmers markets near you. Find your Tennessee farmers at picktnproducts.org.
Do you know where I can find
drill bits? L7.
Thank you.
Hey, aren't you Charlie?
Charlie's here?
Charlie?
Charlie?
People know that farmers have some of the best advice around, like you don't have to be a farmer to save money with Farm Bureau Insurance. Farm Bureau Insurance. Tennessee turns to us.
This happens a lot.
From the great white north to the hills of Tennessee, built with pride and integrity, honest Abe log homes from sea to shining sea, building the American dream. Honest Abe log homes.
It's what you've always wanted. HonestAbe.com.
And by the generous support of the Nature Conservancy of Middle Tennessee and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.